Good morning. This is Cecil and Blues. Thank you for joining me for this Final Fantasy XIV video. The Final Fantasy servers are out of commission for the next 48 hours to accommodate the North American server relocation. When the realms become available again on the 17th of May, we will officially be less than 1 month away from the start of early access for Stormblood, which begins on June 16th at 2 AM Pacific. I know several players who are taking an extended break from Final Fantasy XIV, but 100% plan on returning for Stormblood. Players who returned from a long break for the release of Heavensward should already be aware that there are likely to be roadblocks to the new content, but for players who were caught up during the release of Heavensward, or others who maybe thought things would be different for Stormblood, I'm here to give you the information you'll need to make the transition to Stormblood right when the starting bell rings on June 16th. The most important thing to know is that you must have all main story quests complete up through patch 3.55 Part 2. When you meet the girl in red from the Stormblood trailer, you'll know you've made it. If you don't remember where you left off, the first trick could be locating your next quest. If you still have a main story quest in your log, it will keep you moving in the right direction, but if you left between patches after reaching the end of a main story arc, you may have forgotten where that left you off. Fortunately, you'll only have to look a couple of places. For patch 3.1 through 3.4, you'll want to travel to Foundation in Ishgard, then use the Aethernet to jump to the last vigil in the Pillars. Look for the House Four Temps Knight or Tataru nearby. For patch 3.1, originally the first quest came from Alphanod, who was inside the Four Temps Manor. I have a fuzzy memory that this was updated so the NPC was located outside the manor, but if you don't see anyone, you can speak to the Four Temps guard to enter the manor. If you are starting the patch 3.5 or 3.55 chapters of the main scenario, travel to Mordona and enter the Rising Stones. Tataru will be waiting inside with your first quest. If you abandoned a main story quest somewhere in the middle, well, you're kinda on your own. You're gonna need to use your memory and a wiki to try and figure out where in the world you are. Don't abandon main story quests, kids. It's a gateway to a life of crime. The main story is primarily a solo activity this expansion, but you are required to run a dungeon during each chapter with a steadily increasing item level requirement, starting with item level 170 in patch 3.1, increasing to 180 in 3.2, then 200 in 3.3, 210 in 3.4, and finally item level 230 in patch 3.5. There is also one story trial that you will encounter in patch 3.3 that requires a minimum item level of 205. Some of these item levels are going to be in excess of what you have depending on when you stopped playing, but meeting them in the 3.5 environment shouldn't be too time consuming. It can be confusing though. There are a lot of gear sources in Final Fantasy XIV. Spending gil on crafted items is an option. Stop by the market board and you should be able to find a set of crafted gear for your class at item level 250 and another at item level 255. Prices will vary by your server's economy, but I was seeing prices around 500,000 gil per item. Sometimes the 255 items were cheaper than the 250 set. If you have around 5 or 6 million gil that you're willing to burn, this is a speedy choice to get you back in the game. If you'd rather not loosen your purse strings, the next quickest way to get in above item level 230 is to farm Tomestones of Lore and purchase gear from Hismena in Idleshire. She's the one in the middle. She's looking for 5,010 tomestones. This gear is item level 230, meeting the minimum requirements, but for two problems. You'll be short a ring and a weapon, dragging your average down. To fill those holes, I recommend taking advantage of the Garo PvP event. Queue up for Frontlines Roulette. You'll earn between 500 and 1,000 wolf marks depending on if your team comes in first, second, or third place. When you've collected 5,000 wolf marks, visit the disreputable priest on the Wolf's Den Pier to purchase an item level 235 weapon and ring. As a note, if you are watching this video after the release of Stormblood, these item level concerns should not affect you. The main scenario quest should have been updated to include gear that keeps you up to date for the associated dungeons and trials. But that's then, and we're talking about now. Once your item level is 230 or higher, you'll be able to wrap up the main scenario for Heavensward, and you'll be set to enter Stormblood meeting the minimum requirements. But Mr. Cecil and Blues, what if I want to stomp through the new content like it was a joke, crushing new monsters with a single global cooldown and fighting boss fates solo with my eyes closed? Well, friend, it just so happens that a full set of item level 270 gear could be yours for the low price of basically all your free time for the next 30 days, and will largely involve farming tomestones of scripture. Sound good? Well, you'll want to start by unlocking Expert Roulette. Catch up the main story to gain access to Belsair's Wall, and complete the side quest The Fires of Samal from the Gossamer Moogle in Idleshire. Expert Roulette rewards 90 scripture once per day, making it much easier to reach the weekly cap of 900. If you cap your tomestones each week until the release of Stormblood, you'll have 4,500 scripture to trade with Hismana. She's the one in the middle. Hismana, she's the one in the middle, sells item level 260 gear that can be upgraded to 270. Unfortunately, a full set of gear would cost 5,010 tomestones, and doesn't include a weapon or a second ring, putting it out of your reach. But wait, there is a workaround. A weekly quest is available from Slipthix, a goblin in Idleshire, and that will reward you with a Proto-Ultima heat shielding for completing the Alliance raid Dunsaith. You can use the heat shielding to purchase item level 270 accessories from the next goblin over, whose name is Slimthix. You can purchase an earring, necklace, bracelet, and ring over the course of 4 weeks, reducing your cost to Hismana, she's the one in the middle, to 3,885. Now the only thing that we have to worry about is finding a weapon. You could purchase a Shire weapon from Bertana, she's the one on the right, but they cost 1,000 tomestones, putting you over budget by about 400 scripture. Finishing an anima weapon from scratch in 5 weeks is a bit of a tall order. Not impossible, but a true test of your sanity. If completed, an anima weapon is your best bet, clocking in at item level 275 with good stats. Well, technically, you could get a item level 280 weapon in the Diadem, but then you'd have to participate in the Diadem, and even if you could stomach that, the odds of pulling the right weapon are not very good. If you know a raid team, you could farm the final boss of Alexander Savage to try and get your hands on a 275 weapon. You could also farm Zervan the Demon Extreme for item level 265 weapons. That may be a little bit more accessible, but still a challenge. For casual players, the Kinna weapons available through the Palace of the Dead are another option. You'll need to collect 90 levels of Aetherpool gear inside the Palace of the Dead, and then speak to Iona Kotor. He can create item level 235 weapons for 30 levels of Aetherpool gear, and then upgrade them to item level 255 for an additional 60 levels of Aetherpool gear. It's not ideal, but it is an improvement over the 230 item level iconic weapon sold by Bertana, she's the one on the right, for 1,000 tomestones of lore. Your other choice would be to pick up an armor drop from Dunsaith and spend the scripture you save on a Shire weapon. Which circles us back to the items you purchased from Hismana. She's the one in the middle. They are item level 260, and you will need to upgrade them to item level 270. You can do that by collecting Mahaki coins from each of the Alliance raids. You'll need to run Void Ark, Weeping City, and Dunsaith each 7 times over the next 5 weeks, and trade the coins you collect to Bertana. She's the one on the right. She will trade you Illuminati Tautist Gobtwine, Illuminati Darkest Gobcoat, or Illuminati Deepest Gobdip for a collection of 3 coins. Take those items to Seika, who will upgrade your Shire gear to 270. You'll probably want to slap some materia in that 270 gear while you're at it. You can trade any Mahaki matter that you have to the Goblin Smacklicks outside the Goblin Workshop in Idleshire for grade 5 materia, and have a materia melder NPC or player attach it for you. You can scout out the interface ahead of time to see what the stat caps are for the items you're using. If you don't have enough Mahaki matter, you can purchase materia off the market board, and if grade 5 materia is outside your budget, you can pick up grade 4s for almost nothing. No one will judge you. If you do all of that, you'll be going into Stormblood pretty strong. Unnecessarily strong, really, but in a fun way. The level 55 dungeon in Heavensward was the first to offer higher item level gear than was possible to collect at level 50. It is reasonable to assume that Stormblood will follow a similar model, but with grade 5 materia in item level 270 gear, I think it is unlikely that you'll see any real upgrades until the level 67 dungeon, so all this work isn't going to immediately go to waste. On the other side of the scale, a vendor was available in Ishgard who sold item level 115 gear. Transcribing that to Stormblood, we will likely have access to a vendor selling affordable gear that is item level 245. Maybe 250. You know what? Maybe 255? It's actually kind of hard to guess on this one, because at the launch of Heavensward, item level 115 gear was a natural progression for crafting. Item level 110 was the best item you could craft in A Realm Reborn. As discussed earlier though, Heavensward crafters can already produce item level 255 gear from expensive materials. Will they add a new craft that has the same item level with easier to collect resources, or will they do something else, lowering the item level, raising the item level? It could be anywhere from 245 to 260 and make reasonable sense to me. It all depends on where the scale is going to start and how large item levels are going to inflate during Stormblood. Regardless of how you enter the expansion, you'll be in a similar position when you reach max level. In Heavensward, the lowest tier of level 60 dungeons required item level 145, which is 15 item levels above what was possible at level 50. So even with the best gear, you will almost certainly require new gear at level 70 in order to start running the new max level dungeons. Now, Yoshida said in a recent live letter that when you reach level 70 for the first time, a quest will be offered to the player providing them with their choice of a set of class armor that meets the item level requirements of the max level dungeons. It's unclear if this will include accessories, or if it will just be left side items, or only visible left side items. There was a set of level 60 crafted items, and a vendor in Azizla who sold them, so I expect something similar will be available at level 70 one way or another to help us transition to the max level content in Stormblood. Whether you want to roll in as a powerhouse or sneak in just barely over the you must be this tall to ride this Stormblood mark is your choice. I'd say to meet the minimum requirements you'll need a week or two depending on how many hours a day you plan to play and how much main story you need to catch up on. If you already have a full set of iconic gear from patch 3.3, you can most likely be Stormblood ready within a single evening. If you choose to take a more relaxed view of things, you can appreciate some of the other features added to Final Fantasy XIV since the last time you played. Palace of the Dead, Aquapolis, and Grand Company Squadrons are all fun new features added in Heavensward. The side story missions, dungeons, and raids are now all complete experiences as of patch 3.5. Plus, the Garu PvP event is still going strong, and it has a lot of really cool looking armor that you can collect for cosmetic purposes. A lot has happened since 3.0, so take some time to check out anything you've missed, and most importantly, remember to have fun. Do not burn yourself out trying to become the world's strongest Dragoon by June 16th. You're probably fine just the way you are, but nevertheless, your friends would appreciate if you'd play some Final Fantasy XIV with them. They miss you. This video mostly focuses on getting a single max level job prepared to start the Stormblood main scenario, but very quickly, if your plan is to start a level 50 Samurai or Red Mage, you'll want to work on increasing the power of your Aetherpool gear in the Palace of the Dead in preparation. There will be very few, if any, healers or tanks available between level 50 and 60 during the launch period. Regular dungeon queues will be monstrous, and the Palace of the Dead will be the most efficient option for leveling these new jobs. The level 60 job quest may include a set of item level 230 or better gear, but just in case, you may want to collect a suit of armor for them during the next 5 weeks and keep it in your armory. Red mages share gear with summoners and black mages, while samurai share gear with monks. Thank you for watching this video. If it helps set you on the path to Stormblood, make sure to hit the like button. You can subscribe to the channel to be notified when new videos are posted. Expect a flurry of Final Fantasy XIV activity at the end of June with class overviews, dungeon walkthroughs, and anything else that seems to make sense at the time. Leading up to Stormblood's release, I'll have a summary of next weekend's live letter from Germany, and eventually the 4.0 patch notes. I am also sitting on every piece of monk combat gear from Heavensward, and I'd like to do a bit of a spotlight video before Stormblood releases. You could use it to pick out an outfit for your samurai. Thanks again for tuning in. I hope you have a great day.